These guiding truths are centered around self-awareness, mindfulness of self, inward happenings and outward actions. And I approach these from a deeply spiritual and also neuroscientific perspective. So here is the list of the guiding truths first. Get to know yourself, know your worth, be aware, not fearful, be humble, be authentic, have integrity, forgive, be present, care, be the change you wish to see in the world, hold space, move with the flow, trust in divine order and timing, tread gently, practice kindness, travel light, love wisely, never stop learning, and be the light. Now, in this recording, let's unpack the first 5 together. Then, if you like, save this and follow for more. Now, get to know yourself. Why? Because you've got you for life. The most enduring relationship we will ever have in this world is the one with ourselves. So, self-discovery then is not a luxury. It is the absolute foundation of a peaceful and empowered existence. It requires us to take our time, be present with ourselves, and honestly identify our core patterns, triggers, needs, and passions. And when we understand our internal landscape, so to speak, we stop looking to external sources for validation or direction. Cultivating this deep self-awareness ensures that no matter how chaotic the world becomes around us, we always have a safe, stable home within our own skin. We can always return to ourselves, we can always return to our center. Knowing ourselves genuinely well throughout all of our life stages and all of our challenges is one of the core pillars of authenticity. But more on authenticity a bit later. Number 2 is know your worth. Treat yourself and others with dignity and respect. That's what I mean by knowing your worth. So, our value is inherent and non-negotiable and completely independent of external validation or achievement, right? Knowing our worth means setting healthy boundaries, honoring our energetic limits, and gently choosing never to abandon ourselves. It is a commitment to show up for ourselves in our most challenging experiences rather than walking away and completely abandoning ourselves. When we carry this deep internal sense of self-respect, we naturally treat our own soul with profound kindness and respect. And honestly, we cannot truly honor the dignity of the world around us in a healthy, wholesome, and well-grounded way until we have first established it firmly within ourselves. Ultimately, recognizing our worth sets a sacred standard, if you will, ensuring we always anchor our internal processes and external actions in a deep reverence for the truth of who we are right here, right now. Now, our next guiding truth is to be aware, not fearful. And what I mean by that is that situational awareness is an important skill and it keeps us safe. True situational awareness is an empowering tool of clarity and not an engine for anxiety. From a neuroscientific perspective, living in a constant state of fear keeps our nervous system locked in a survival loop, flooding our body with cortisol and adrenaline. And this chronic activation completely exhausts our physical body and drains our mental energy. And in the long run, it has serious consequences. But being aware means that we open our eyes to the reality of the present moment. observing our surroundings without attachment and without projection, which allows our brain to stay calm and rational, and it allows our nervous system to stay regulated. And this is not about living in hypervigilance or expecting the worst all the time. Rather, it is about staying conscious, staying grounded, staying regulated, and staying prepared. Now, the next one is be humble. Why? Because being humble quiets our ego. But humility is not about playing small or shrinking ourselves. It is the conscious practice of quieting the ego so we can genuinely connect with the world around us. When our ego is too loud, it demands constant validation and it triggers defensiveness and it isolates us from others in a trap of comparison. True humility opens our minds and softens our hearts, if you will, allowing us to listen deeply and acknowledge that we are part of a much larger tapestry, a much larger picture. And it reminds us that while our soul is uniquely valuable, our story is beautifully interlinked with the stories of everybody else around us, with the world around us. And by stepping back from the need to always be right and in the center, we create space for profound inner peace, authentic growth, and genuine human connections. And that is vital. Now, our next guiding truth is to be authentic, meaning to cultivate deep emotional awareness and self-acceptance because it leads to emotional freedom where no outside validation is needed. Now, authenticity is the natural outward expression of a beautifully aligned inner world. I would like to say this again. Authenticity is the natural outward expression of a beautifully aligned inner world. As we discussed earlier, truly knowing ourselves is the absolute pillar of authenticity, serving as the foundation for everything we build in our lives, really. This means that bravely embracing our shadow and knowing our own weaknesses, just as well as our strengths, is an act of courage. Why? Because most of us hardly ever dare to look at either end of our own spectrum. When we cultivate this deep emotional awareness, we learn to sit with our feelings without judgment. We are greeting our true needs and passions with open arms. Pairing this awareness with profound self acceptance unlocks a liberating state of emotional freedom, anchoring our worth so deeply within that outside validation is no longer needed. The more authentic we become, the more emotional freedom, healthy detachment, and inner peace we will experience. Authenticity requires commitment to ourselves. It's a process. But there's one important rule that we must follow to get there. And you know what that is? That is to never lie to ourselves. Now, with all that said, I'll end this recording. But if you enjoyed listening and found some inspiration, peace, or empowerment in my words, then subscribe and come back for part 2, where we can unpack the rest of these truths together. I'll leave you with all of this for now. Have a wonderful week, and I'll see you next time.